The old sanatorium on the outskirts of town had long been a source of mystery and fear. Once a bustling facility for the mentally ill, it had been abruptly shut down decades ago under murky circumstances. Official reports blamed a tragic accident, but local whispers told the much darker tale: secret experiments on patients, rituals, and sacrifices that left many to wonder what truly happened behind its thick, crumbling walls. For most, the stories alone were enough to keep them away, but not Liam, a thrill-seeker at heart. He dismissed the tales of ghosts and cursed spirits as small-town superstition. One night, determined to prove to his friends and to himself that the sanatorium was nothing more than an abandoned relic, he grabbed his video camera and set off toward the building. The sanatorium loomed in the moonlight, its broken windows like empty eyes staring into the night. The wind howled through the rusting gates, but it wasn't enough to deter Liam. He climbed through an opening in the gate, camera in hand, and made his way toward the entrance. The front doors, barely hanging on their hinges, creaked open with an eerie groan, as if the building was welcoming him in. Inside, the air was cold and thick with dust. Each step he took echoed through the vast, empty halls. As his flashlight cut through the darkness, he saw remnants of the sanatorium's past-rusted hospital beds, old charts strewn across the floor, and equipment left to rot. The farther he went, the heavier the air became, carrying with it a faint metallic scent that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Something felt wrong, but he shook it off, determined to explore deeper. At the end of a long corridor, a door stood slightly ajar. It was the old operating theater, a place he had heard about in the stories, where they said the worst of the experiments had been conducted. With a shaky breath, Liam pushed the door open. The room was massive, the floor covered in dust and old surgical instruments scattered haphazardly. But there was something else. In the center of the room, cooling beneath an old surgical table, was a thick, dark red liquid. He approached slowly, thinking it was dried paint or rust, but as he got closer, the liquid seemed to shimmer, almost pulsating in the dim light. And then, to his horror, it began to move slowly at first, like a trickle, then faster, spreading across the floor toward him. His breath caught in his throat. It wasn't paint, it was blood. Liam staggered back, his camera trained on the spreading pool as it began to climb the walls, dripping down like rain. The room filled with a suffocating, metallic smell, and a strange warmth began to radiate from the blood as it crept closer, but the warmth quickly turned into intense heat. Suddenly, the blood caught fire, roaring up the walls in bright, violet flames. The heat was overwhelming, but even more terrifying were the shapes that began to emerge from the fire. At first, they were just shadows, vague, human-like figures moving through the flames, but then they became clearer. Twisted faces and disfigured bodies clawed their way out of the burning blood, their eyes hollow and glowing with a sickly red light. Their mouths moved, though no sound came out as they reached toward him. Liam's hands shook, his camera capturing every horrifying moment. He wanted to run, but his feet were rooted to the ground, as if the blood had a hold on him. He could feel it beneath his shoes, sticky and warm, creeping up his legs. He struggled to move, but it was no use. He was trapped. From the center of the flames, a figure stepped forward. Unlike the others, this one was calm, composed. It was a man dressed in an old, tattered doctor's coat, his eyes dead but fixed on Liam. He held a scalpel in his hand, its blade rusted but sharp. The man spoke in a voice that was barely a whisper, yet it echoed through the room dot, 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 double quotes, you shouldn't have come here, the man said, his voice cold and emotionless. But now that you're here, you will stay, dot, dot, Liam, single quotes as heart pounded in his chest as he tried to pull free from the blood. But it was already too late. The blood surged up, wrapping around his legs, pulling him down. His camera fell to the floor, still recording as his body was swallowed by the pool of blood. The last thing he saw was the doctor's hollow eyes staring down at him with a twisted smile. Dot, dot, dot. The next morning, the sanatorium stood silent once more. Liam's friends, worried after not hearing from him, ventured out to find him. They found his camera just outside the building, covered in dust but still intact. They played the footage, but all they saw were empty, decaying rooms. No blood, no flames, no shadows, dot, dot, dot. But as the video came to an end, a single message appeared on the screen.